It's nice to have you here. I want to give you a warm welcome here at another evening of the series Genial dagegen in the Kreisky Forum. We do this series now since 2006 or 2005, 2006, we don't know. We have had a lot of dozen guests here, also some Greek guests. For example, in 2012, our friend Yanis Varoufakis spoke here, and the year after, our friend Alexis Tsipras, who were at that time the first one an academic, the other an opposition leader. Now they are important figures of a leftist government in Europe, the leftist government in Greece. And now, today, this evening, we have another guest from Greece here, not from Athens this time, but a guest from Thessaloniki, Katerina Notopoulou. Katerina, it's great to have you here. Katerina is a member of the Central Committee of SYRIZA. It's what we would call the Parteivorstand, so a broader range of leadership of the party. She is also very active in her town, Thessaloniki, and they are active especially in solidarity movements like the solidarity clinics, which do medical support for people without insurance, but how this works she will tell us in the talk. This talk is part of a beginning dialogue series we will have occasionally in the next months with other people from Greece, from Spain, for example in June, already at the 15th of June. And this series, dialogue series, is called New European Left, which is a broad issue. So not on every evening we can talk, for sure. We cannot talk on every issue on this, about these issues, but one more and more and more, so we will have a complex picture, I think, and I hope. So this is, in a way, a start of this series. And now I stop. Katerina, it's wonderful to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the invitation. For me, it's a double honor to be in such a historical place. I feel deeply honored, and I'm very thankful to Kreisky Forum and also to Robert Misik for this invitation. The reason is pretty clear. I'm here to discuss with you a provocative subject, which is provocative and at the same time extremely crucial, because you know in Greece and in Europe we live in crucial times. I hope that my input in today's evening won't be conventional, because we don't have space for conventional things. We don't live in conventional times. What I want to say is that we have to make a change in Europe, and we have to make it now. The reason I'm in a hurry for this change is that I'm coming from Greece, and our history, our future is in the agenda of today's discussion in the European Union and in today's Eurogroup, as you know. So I guess you all know what is the situation like in Greece. What we live is in a situation we have an explosive cocktail of dilemmas, of challenges, of threatening coming from the European Union. And at the same time, all these are related with our geostrategical position inside the world. Just have a look at the Ukraine or at Lviv. What I want to say is that Greece is a place of stability in a triangle of non-stability, of instability. So, as we all know, it is a common acceptance that the European Union is in a critical path, in critical crossroads. You know, my professor, and he is a right-wing professor, he used to say that we shouldn't be Euroscepticists, but if we care about Europe and our future, we have to be skepticist about the future of Europe. So, if we try to describe our everyday life into this European Union, that would be like a portrait of a world crumbling and its pieces falling on our bodies, on our human bodies, on our lives. And this is exactly what we face in Greece. This is exactly what people face in Spain. This is exactly what people face in Italy. And this is exactly what we have to fight against, the new leftist government in Greece. You know, I'll have the first part of my input. I'll try to speak to you a little bit about solidarity. I know it's a term we use very often. I'll try to tell you what it means for us, for the people coming from the movement, what it means for people coming from a leftist party, and what it means for the government, and what it means for Europe. You know, the previous years, what we said is that we are victims of a crisis, but we have to stand up on our feet and fight. This is why we tried to enter to a big variety of solidarity movements inside Greece, solidarity initiatives. What is this? Groups of the neighborhood, people coming from one neighborhood, people coming from the left, people coming from unions, decided to make some solidarity initiatives like the Clinic of Solidarity I am a member of. That means to provide to people who live under the poverty line basic things like access to healthcare system, or food, or reconnect the electricity which was cut because they couldn't pay their bills. So what we did was to stand up one next to each other, trying to survive and trying to build a better future. Through all this experience, and I'll come to the point now, what we have gained is another political proposal. Solidarity, on the one hand, was a means to survive, a vehicle, if you want, but it turned out to be a different political proposal, and that was the proposal of SYRIZA. If you could take it into terms of economy, what we propose is a social solidarity economy, and we are trying to construct this program according to all the experience we gathered the previous years from all these initiatives, from all these discussions. At the same time, it's also fighting for our freedom and for democracy. It's grassroots movements where we decide all together based to grassroots democracy, self-run movements. You know, in Greece we have one of the first, I think, factories in Europe which is self-run. It's called Viome, and that is another alternative proposal. What should a person that is fired from the, not only a person, if all the employees of a factory are fired, what should they do? They take the factory into their own hands and they work it. These are all very important proposals for the leftist government to work, since we have no money. The idea of solidarity is not new for Greece, I think for no one. The first big movement of solidarity was EAM. It's coming from the Second World War at the end. It came to be a movement of freedom, fighting against the occupiers, and at the same time covering basic needs. So this is what exactly we tried to do the previous years, to touch the mind and the heart of people, or as Gramsci would say it, to gain hegemony. So solidarity for us is a political proposal itself, and it's also a way to social transformation. Some people said that SYRIZA, of the 3%, this party, were some crazy people who tried to do what? To change Europe, to change the world. What we answered, and we answered it as the movement, as a leftist party, and now as a government, is that going to social transformation, we can do basic steps right now, at the moment. And just to give you here an idea, that was the difference between us and the Communistic Party in Greece, that we can start rebuilding European Union from this very moment we are using new tools, using new ideas, using new language, more charming if you want, less restricted by only labor needs or by Keynesian means. So, coming to my point, through all these movements, what happened was a leftist government. SYRIZA, a party of 3%, grew up to the leader party of the government, trying to change the history of European Union at the moment. As you know, our guys, as we call them, our comrades in Brussels, they are giving a very big fight. And what the SYRIZA government managed to do these last months, I heard that today we have birthday of 100 days as a government. One of the most important things we managed to do was to change the agenda of the discussion in the European Union. Up to now, what we heard was that the neoliberalism and more austerity is the medicine to exit out of the crisis. For the first time now, we had a Minister of Finance, Mr. Varoufakis, claiming to all the other ministers that no, this medicine is killing the Greek people. And if you want more development to Europe, if you don't want to split Europe, if you want to take your money back, we should give another medicine. We should take back all the austerity measures and let people live and produce, of course. So, one thing that is important for the leftist government is the radicalization of all the movements and of the general public opinion in European Union. What do I mean by this? In the previous years, what we used to have was only the propaganda of the mass media. What we are trying to do right now is to change all this propaganda, and if we said it with a motto, that would be "Eat the rich." You know, in Greece, some little families have over-doubled their wealth, whereas all the others are really dying. People are dying outside of the hospitals. People were dying because they had no access to food. People were kicked out of their houses because they had over-indebted, they were over-indebted and they couldn't afford to pay for their houses. Now we have a complete change to all this strategy, to all this way of thinking. So let me refer to the first things that the SYRIZA government did. And by the way, I have to say I'm a party member, not a government member. I say this because we are really trying to find our role in the new situation. And I'll come back to what that means for the new left also. So what SYRIZA said was that solidarity is a declared value, but at the same time it's our goal, it's our model. So the first law was in a symbolic way voted. It was about stopping the humanitarian crisis, about showing solidarity to poor people, about giving food to 300,000 families, about giving electricity to 300,000 families, and about giving a house, a shelter to this amount of families. Maybe you know that this was part of the agreement of the first Eurogroups. But as soon as the day came that we had to vote this new law in the Greek Parliament, the answer coming from European Union and Mr. Costello was that that would be a unilateral action. That if we do this, we act by ourselves, as if it is a crime to protect people dying. By all this, I want to say that the situation in Greece right now, it's really explosive. On the one hand, we have a very recent popular mandate giving an order to the government to protect extremely poor people and to bring development and to stop killing people. And on the other hand, we have the European Union institutes denying to discuss with us. At the beginning, as Varoufakis and Tsakalotos, our members of the negotiation team, said, they didn't even look at what we had to propose. Right now, they are forced to find out what the real program of SYRIZA is in order to escape from this crisis. So, other new laws that our government passed. One symbolic one for democracy. We opened ERT. You know that some years ago, 1.5 years ago, the public, the national TV channel was closed down by force just in one night. And that was a crime against democracy. So after 1.5 years of fighting, of a big solidarity movement coming inside Greece and outside Greece also, from all the European countries, we have reopened our public channel. Also, protecting the first house of poor people who are over-indebted. Or the new law for doses, and what I mean for this. If you are over-indebted and you had a small company, a small shop, you can now pay 100 doses. That was boosted, for taxes, and that boosted really the Greek economy. Suddenly the state had income. The previous years it didn't, because people could not afford to pay these extreme taxes. Also, one of the most important things that is going to happen this week, if I'm not mistaken, is opening the NHS, the National Healthcare System, for people without insurance. And let me say a bit more on this. With the previous government, what happened was, if I may use the term of Foucault, by a policy of death in Greece. According to the orders of European Union for more cuts on the funding of healthcare sector, what the government did was to kick away 30% of the Greeks outside the national healthcare system. If you had cancer, you had to find around 3,000 euros per month to find your medicine. If you were a child without healthcare insurance, you had no vaccines. So what came up were diseases that had vanished the previous years. So now, in the next week, we are going to pass a new law opening the NHS and giving access to all people without insurance. That is a very big success, I think, of the left. That shows what we want to do. And that makes us feel really happy. At the same time, it makes us feel very anxious, because we have no money to give more to the hospitals. We have no medicine for all of us, actually, people with or without insurance. And everything, really everything, depends on the negotiations going on in Brussels. What else we did? You know, we live in very sad days with all these deaths of migrants trying to approach Europe, coming from the Mediterranean. One thing that we were not afraid to do was to open the prisons for migrants without documents in Greece. You know that in Greece there were like concentration camps. I know that it's a very heavy term, but we had thousands of migrants packed into very small houses without hygiene, without food, without climate, just left alone to die. So these are some of the first steps that the new Greek government did. What the new Greek government, coming from the left, said is that we won't betray our people. We have a very recent popular mandate about stopping austerity, and we have to find a solution within European Union. That was the order that people gave at the elections of January 25 in Greece. We won't go behind our red lines. For example, what is discussed nowadays is if there will be a release of the collective dismissals in the private and public sector. And we say, no, we don't accept this. There is also the pressure put by European Union to cut down more the pensions. You should know that a medium pension, the normal pension for a Greek is around 600 euros. I guess it's not that much, no matter what the others may say. Or they want to put extra taxation on every good we have, especially on basic products, or to the islands. And you can say it's not a big deal if a tourist pays more taxes for basic goods to an island like Mykonos or like Creta, but you can imagine what that means for a very poor citizen living to a small island somewhere in Kos, for example. So we say that we are in negotiations, but what we do not negotiate is our survival. We are very clear on this. And there is where we come to ask for your support. I come to the point. There are two alternatives for European Union. The first one is to stay still, to put our signatures on more extreme neoliberal policies, to split up Europe and kill its people. I really wonder who inside this room can bear with it. And the other one is the proposal coming from this new left, as the title of today's speech is, the proposal for a different Europe. You know, coming here, I was really thinking once again what made social democracy go far away from what Kreisky said and served with his life. And this is one question that social democracy really needs to answer right now, especially the ones who are in Brussels, the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance. So the question comes, what kind of Europe can we live in? It's not a matter of kicking a country like Greece outside Europe. And if the question comes to, we want your money to survive, no, we don't. We need jobs, we need to work, we don't need benefits for the unemployed, but we need employment. We need basic things like every European citizen would need. The European Union has only recession and more recession and total devastation of its economy. You know, I'm pretty sure that the situation we received, we could not imagine. And that was also claimed by our ministers. So coming to the new left, I would propose to study a bit the SYRIZA example to find out how we can contribute to building this new left. Because a monetary union that distributes people from the state, distributes different societies, Germany against Greece, Italy against Austria, or whatever. That is a European Union that needs to be reconstructed, or completely will fail. So, what does reconstruction mean? It means rupture. It means rupture not with the coin, but it means rupture with the policies running at the moment. It means change. So change for Europe is not only a mature demand coming from the people and coming from the movement, but I would say it's more an existential question. We should make a change in order to stay united, in order to have peace, in order to get our lives back. And the only ones who can answer with a program this existential question, I think, is the new left. So today, just like the whole humanity is facing new challenges, so is SYRIZA, and so is the new left, the European new left. What we would say was, what I mentioned before was SYRIZA is a radical redefinition of itself and its role in the present time. We're trying to find out what the role of the party is, what the connection with the government is, and what the connection with the movement is. The same answers, the same discussions should be done with the new European left. All the previous years we kept on fighting. Now we have to find on a multi-dimension level. What do you mean? We still have to be on the road. Tsipras and Varoufakis said that their biggest guns, their biggest advantages going to the negotiations were that on the first days of the negotiations, thousands of people were on the roads of Greece demanding from the government not to go, not even one step back from what it promised. And this is what we need from you too. Maybe we should just enter little by little the discussion. What I would just try to stress here is that a big fear of SYRIZA is bureaucracy. Bureaucracy concerning the state, and at the same time bureaucracy concerning the party. And I think that it was also a problem of the left all over Europe. So before socialism, but on the way to the new socialism, what we say on our part is that we count to each one of you, because we have to make the change to make it now, and we have the only real alternative to neoliberalism, and that is the new left and the new plan for European Union. So,
thank you. Thank you, Katerina. A little different to how we usually do this here with the evenings in the Kreisky Forum. We decided today that we have this short input and do it now a little bit with a just like a talk show between Katerina and me for half an hour, and then you where we want to touch a different range of issues, and then you have the possibility, as usual, to to ask questions to our guests and also to me, but I'm sure you want to ask questions only to our guest. Maybe to discuss all the different issues, we should start with the these grassroots solidarity movements, like this Clinic for Solidarity, where you work. So you are also working there because you are a psychiatrist, and so you are not only
psychologist.
Psychologist, sorry, psychologist. Okay, so you are also really helping people, not only organizing that.
Yeah.
So how can we imagine that? Are these
how the
clinic work? Has it a place, or is it a moving clinic, or how does that work?
Thank you for giving me some time to share our experience, because I think this is one of the most valuable things we built the previous years. So when we started the clinic, it was like 30 crazy people without budget, without anything, saying that it's a crime to kick people out of the NHS. What we did was to address to different people or to unions to find a place. So the place we host is a very small clinic, it's not a hospital. It was given to us by the Labour Center. So we were 30 volunteers, 30 became 50, now we are more than 300 working inside this small clinic, changing to each other, and another network of another 300 people outside the clinic, covering all the specializations. What the patient does is coming there by booking an appointment. We ask for no papers, and this is crucial for us, because what we say is that the right to health is a right. You cannot ask for papers, you cannot ask for money. You just have to provide whatever a European country would do. So they book an appointment, they have the doctor, and they have the medicine if we have it. We also promoted the idea of recycling medicine. So if you have a painkiller in your house you don't need anymore, you can bring it to us, and if the doctor thinks we should give it, we do. That's how it works. Here I would like to mention that the support to our Solidarity Clinic coming from other countries, especially from Austria, it was extremely huge. I mean, the unions coming from OG Band, Veltum, Span and Arbeiten, they did a very huge campaign, political work, and this is why we kept alive. This is why we kept working in the clinic. You know, nobody gets paid there, and nobody pays, of course. This is why we kept the place running. Really, thousands of people find cure or could enter a hospital. And this is how we kept on fighting and bring the change to the government too. I mean, it worked like a change. So you give me the chance to thank all the Austrian people who have supported this campaign. At the same time, there are more solidarity initiatives. You know, in the group of neighborhood, together, people coming from a simple neighborhood, reconnecting the electricity. We had occasions of people who died because they were respiring mechanically. They were old men. They couldn't afford to pay their electricity, and it was cut down. And now that we passed this new law protecting them and giving them free electricity, Mr. Costello said that we are not allowed to do it. A measure that has no cost for the Greek government. Imagine how big the pressure is. Also collecting food. So to give it to people, to young children at schools, you know, electricity for heat, trying to find solutions inside the building we are living. I know that these images, they are kindly describing, if you could say what memoranda did in Greece, it would be how to turn a European country into a third world country. That is what happened, and we had to survive. So ideas just came one after the other about solidarity initiatives.
So how many people in Greece are without a health insurance at that moment?
At the moment, 30% of the Greeks, that is around 3 million people. The good news is that from in the next days, they won't be without insurance. But what we really, and we need to be clear and honest, our hospitals are devastated. There is no budget to give to the hospitals, not for medicine, for nothing. We have 20,000 empty positions at the hospitals for nurses or for doctors. And our Minister of Health, he promised that there will be 5,000 people hired. We lack another 15. So you really understand what that means.
So you have it, actually you have people without health insurance and doctors without jobs.
Exactly. Exactly. I think it's very well known that Greece is facing brain drain, especially doctors or psychologists or whatever from this specialization are coming to northern countries. All my university colleagues, they moved to Sweden, Norway, where they need. So from this crisis, some people got a lot of money, and also some states were helped. What I mean is that we produced ready scientists going outside Greece to work, to Germany, for example.
Maybe you mentioned already the solidarity campaign of the European trade unions, and especially the Austrian trade unions. We have our friends Sepp Wallstrasser here, and I want to say that at that point, because he's very active in this solidarity movement, and he will also afterwards sell a Greek, Rezeptbuch, ja, also so Essensrezepte, which makes, for what you have to pay 10 euros, and this will as a whole come to the campaign. You can also give 10 euros or 20 or 100 without buying this book, for sure. So the point is that this campaign collected 85,000 euros for the solidarity clinics till now, so that's a really huge amount of money. Thank you, Sepp, for that, and I wanted to say that at that point because for the reason that all of you know what you have to do after this.
It's really saving lives.
After this event. Let's stay at this solidarity thing. You mentioned also food chains, how one has to imagine that. Are there peasants who are producing food and giving it to the... Is it a more cooperative way, or is it from the supermarket? How do you figure in such a crisis the organization of solidarity?
It works in a lot of levels. What do you mean? The idea came up when we created Bazaar without middlemen. You know that in Greece, farmers up to the past were not allowed to sell their products. They had to find a middleman to sell it for them. So they got a very low price for the product, the middleman earning a lot, and we paying a lot. So what we did was another resistance movement, Bazaar without middlemen. Farmers selling their products at fair prices, accessible to the consumer, to the poor consumer, and also giving a solidarity tax that was giving part of their foods, of the goods they brought, to solidarity initiatives. At the same time, what we do is to go outside supermarkets with basket. By the way, basket is another, Little Basket is another solidarity initiative we are creating at the moment, and call people to bring some food for people they know, for people in the neighborhood. You know, for us, the important thing was to distinguish charity with solidarity. So what we want is people to stand up on their feet. So we thought it's better to get a bag of food, to cook it in your house for your children, than take your children and to wait in a huge line in a kitchen, soup kitchen, you know. What we lacked in Greece the previous years was dignity. And no matter what happens with the negotiations, I'm pretty sure, and you can feel it if you walk to the roads of Greece, that Greek people now feel they have dignity, because they have somebody to stand up and talk for them, for their profit. So to come back, this is the way it works up to now. Or we have donations from unions, etc.
So now come to the second issue, the party in power. You are not only a grassroots activist, you are also part of the party leadership and are in a way connecting these two worlds, because you were in the central committee, as you told me, responsible for organizing this solidarity movement. How is the relationship between grassroots activism, solidarity campaigns, also grassroots resistance, which is usually trying to get to a radical path, and now you have a government which has to do practical work in the real life, let's put it that way. Are there tensions, or in which way does, or how do you try to organize it that tensions cannot occur?
To your first question, if I had to answer with a word, that would be complex, that the relations are very complex. As I said at the beginning, we are trying to redefine the identity of Syriza and also the identity of the movements. There comes the question for the movements. Okay, now what are we doing? What is our role? And this is not answered yet. It's an ongoing discussion inside the movements. You know, the big advantage of Syriza, which I think contributed a lot to its winning, was that it participated into the movements, it fought with the movements, it radicalized the movements, but never took advantage of them. At the same time, what we say is that we need a very strong party, because only a strong party can give legalization to a leftist government. And at the same time, what we say is that we need to revive the movement. That's not easy. You know, people after the elections, they were relieved, and now they're waiting with their television screen what is going on in Brussels. What we are trying to do is put people back on the roads, to fight against, to put pressure on the government. That's what we need, to put pressure on the government, not because we are afraid that the government is going to betray the party or the society, but because the government needs pressure for the people. It needs to show, Tsipras needs to show to Ms. Merkel that my people are there. I have a very recent mandatory coming from the elections, and that is not to go back from this. From these red lines.
You can imagine that a lot of people here, also in Austria, that's at least many people who usually come to visit the Kreisky Forum, were very much in support, or also maybe euphoric about the election victory of Syriza. And now people have questions, because now we have 3 months or 100 days since the election. People don't really know what is happening now. What is the mood in Greece now? Is the support of the government still intact, or is there still this honeymoon which you usually have after an election victory, or are the people now also a little bit anxious? How would you describe the situation?
I would say that the honeymoon is over, but the love and the passion is still there. The gallops, the open gallops and the hidden ones, they all show that Syriza is really ahead still to the preference of people. I think that every day that passes, Syriza passes the exams of the society. People voted and said, okay, let's see what they did. They look different, they are different, let's say how they will go on. And they see that we are different. They see that we have clear politicians, we have new politicians, and that we are still fighting for the good of the people, that we are not afraid to say the truth. I think one thing that was supportive to the government was that Mr. Tsipras, the Prime Minister, he gave an interview just the previous week answering to citizens' questions, and that was strange, you know, for Greece. We couldn't reach the previous ex-ministers. We couldn't talk to them. They decided for our lives without being able to criticize them. So what I mean is that according to what the gallops say and according to what we feel is that we should not fear. And my impression is that if you ask somebody, the answer will be, don't be afraid. If you ask a male Greek, you know, don't be afraid, because it's not that we have given money to people. It's not that we gave jobs to people, but we gave dignity and we gave some sort things to their everyday life, like the 100 doses I told you, or no extra taxes. You know, one friend said to me, even if you don't do anything from what you promised, at least we have no more of the catastrophe. People are afraid of exiting the Eurozone. I am, everybody is. Nobody knows how life will be afterwards. But nobody can bear living in such conditions anymore.
You mentioned Gallup opinion polls. What does this exactly mean, that Syriza would be voted by 36 or 34 or 40% of people, and the support of the government is 70%, 80%?
80%,
or what?
And I think now we would have the absolute majority
in the parliament.
If we had now elections, but we were not as lucky the previous time.
Sorry?
We were not that lucky. We didn't have the absolute majority, and that cost it to us.
Yeah.
But now, if elections happened now, I think we would have it. Yeah, and I think you give me it's the time for the joke.
Oh yes, it's time for the joke. It's time for the joke. It was not my idea.
You know, it's always the leftists. We are always complaining, always waiting for the revolution, and Syriza didn't make a revolution. So the Gallup says, how much content are you with the new government? 80% said they are very content. 20% said they are not as much content as they hoped for. The 20% are the Syriza members. But that's just a joke.
Yeah, but it
has roots.
I can imagine that this joke meets reality, and it's also a little bit the problem of the left, as the left is always not satisfied with its own government. However the things figure out. Let's come. But what we talked a lot now was measures, emergency measures, to tackle the humanitarian crisis, and energy, health care, by solidarity movements, but also by new emergency measures of the government. That for sure that could help in the short run and change a lot compared with what before. But it wouldn't, for sure, it wouldn't change the whole picture. So, do you have any ideas what have to be done to kickstart the economy, which is in depression now since 6 years? Or is this actually out of possibility in a situation where there is something like positional warfare between the government and the Eurozone finance ministers, because there is no time to care about details like kickstarting the economy?
You know, the basic perception and the strategic plan of Syriza was that if we want to have luck, if we want to survive as a party, as a government, we have to construct a different plan, a competitive plan to the neoliberals plan. So this plan says that the only way to get out of the crisis, to exit the crisis, is on behalf of people. If you want Europe to be united, that means to reinvest in the Greek economy, and that money goes to jobs, that money goes to welfare state, that money goes to people. And only then people could pay their taxes. You know very well that we get all this money which never reaches our pockets. It's obvious. So I think it's also as obvious that what we need is a new deal. And if Roosevelt could tax the rich, it's the duty for the left to tax the rich, and it's the duty for the leadership of European Union to have a different approach to the matter of debt. The Greek Parliament has formed a council controlling and checking which part of the debt is the real one and which part of the debt is not. So we do not intend to do things on our own as a country, but what we want to present is how unfair this debt is and how we can deal with it. So if we don't answer to this crucial question, and we have to give an answer now, we said that we are asking for a European conference on the matter of the debt, and if this doesn't happen, we never will give a solution.
but this kind of, the question of debt is a question, but also if Greece would be getting rid of its debt, yes, it would get rid of this situation now that you have to take every 3 months new loans to pay back the old loans, but there wouldn't be enough money in Greece to kickstart the economy. So where should this investment program come from? From new loans, or from should it be a European investment program, or what ideas would you formulate on that?
What is SYRIZA working on is on a different plan for productivity. We have no production in Greece. So what we are working is on a new program for production, but also alternative, like collective ways of working. And of course we need investments. We need investments everywhere. That could not be with the form of new loans, or at least with the loans we take up to now. That could be on a very basic level, like collective of farmers, or what we say is that we do not want to privatize like this the ports, because the ports for us are a tool to reimburse, to boost economy again. And also the airport. We sold the airports without getting nothing for the country. How this economy can survive? How an economy can survive without the electricity organization, for example. So I don't know if I have answered somehow, but that's what we are asking for, and this is why we ask for the money coming for investments to be excluded from the program of sustainability.
And do you have the impression that there is somebody in the European elites or the important circles in Brussels who are supportive, or maybe one can formulate this question the other way around. Did you have the hope at end of January that there could be more support, that there could be the possibility of making alliances within the traditional framework of European policy? And do you have the impression that this hope, if it was there, has vanished now?
Well, the people participating in the negotiations team in Brussels, they confessed that we were extremely kind with the European elites, that we believed, we trusted them. We made steps back from our program, not behind the red lines, of course. We trusted them and we saw no money. On the contrary, what we live is an explosive situation. We have no air, we have no money as a country. So I would say that, yes, there is a lack of enthusiasm, and I think it's natural. We never thought that things would be easy. Not at the beginning, not now. And we know that as the elections to other countries coming, like in Spain, for example, things are going to be stricter and stricter. And if the memoranda were an economic experiment, the government of the left in Greece is a political experiment. And we know that they want to kill it and kill it now. So what we base on is the people. This is why we address to you.
But maybe they don't want to kill you because they know there is no alternative to you. Maybe their strategic idea is a little bit easier to say, okay, we don't move, they don't move. At the end, there will be a resolution which means a little bit less austerity to Greece and nothing changing generally in Europe. Isn't that a relatively possible outcome?
I think that a little bit less austerity is not our plan, and we do not discuss it. So that could not be an agreement, at least with the SYRIZA government, and I hope not with another. What I want to say is that SYRIZA is pretty clear. We are working very hard to find an alliance, an agreement right now, in the way that European Union framework is operating, but with complete respect to the order that the people gave to us. No more austerity. So the ball now is, the hot potato, I think, is in the other hands. I mean, we saw as much trust as we had. We said, we are here, we are working, we have this plan, we did all the reformations, but now you should discuss with us. because it's not only our problem. This European crisis made some countries and some people richer. So this is what we have to deal. If you don't want European Union to be split up, and I think that really the cost of splitting up Europe is unbearable, especially for the ones who cause it.
As I mentioned before, I think our audience also wants some inside information or some insights, no special, no secrets, but some insights which we cannot really estimate from the distance. You know, the storyline in the last weeks was, which is funny enough, that Varoufakis is the hardline guy who talks a lot and he moves nothing, and he is the bad guy who nerves all these colleagues in the Council of the Finance Ministers, but. Alexis Tsipras, he's the nice guy. He's the nice guy you can talk with, and Tsipras and Merkel, they have a good atmosphere, and they like each other. And the bad guy Varoufakis will do nothing, but Tsipras and Merkel, they will solve it. And there was also the storyline that the hardliner Varoufakis now is sidelined by the government because Tsipras knows that he has to do this if there should be a deal in this tense moment. Is this only story? What's right with that? How would you comment that?
One thing is for sure, that Varoufakis is a superstar on the TVs all over the world, I think. In Greece at least he is. We have to be very serious on all this propaganda. I mean, the negotiations are not one-man show. It would be silly for anyone to perceive that it's the problem of Varoufakis, who is arrogant or who dresses in a different way, and that annoys Mr. Schäuble, so he's kicked out. This is not... It doesn't work like that, of course. We think that it was a very a way to hit the Greek government. You cannot send away the prime minister, you say, I don't speak with that guy. It's clear on our part that Mr. Varoufakis has the total agreement and support coming from the SYRIZA and from the government. He still is the Minister of Finance. What we did was the already existing negotiations team to be promoted, or yeah? You got it? This is the story. This is just the story. We think that, okay, if you meet Mr. Tsakalotos, who is, in my view at least, much more radical, I think in the next weeks maybe that would be the attitude. And maybe in 1 month Miss Merkel changes her mind towards Tsipras. So what I want to say is that it's not a matter of personality, and nobody is serious or has into his mind the historical weight we are all carrying at the moment to say that it's a matter of 1 man that we don't like, the failure of negotiations. Just to add on this, I think that Mr. Varoufakis, what he did was exactly what he should do. He spoke the language of Brussels, and he said our reality, and he said our program. That was his role, and he performed very well.
If you say it's not a question of personality, it's a question of political lines, and you said, or as you hinted, Varoufakis is in a way a moderate guy because he's more or less social democratic Keynesian, and there are a lot more leftist guy in Syriza. So how difficult is governing with a difficult party which is party and movement at the same time, with different political Flügel, also wings. Is this a problem for Syriza? Is this a problem for the government, who has to take care about every wing of the party because it needs the support in the parliament? Is this a problem, or is it not a problem?
In Greece, and from what I noticed also to the other European mass media, the main propaganda, the main, argument for the propaganda was exactly this, that Syriza and Tsipras cannot handle the lot of tensions of the leftist tensions inside the party, and that will cause the failure of the government and of the negotiations. I can assure you, and we tried really hard on this, it was not easy, that what we managed to do, and we're still working on this, was to transform this difficulty of multi-dimension races of the left, to transform it into our power. And it is power. Because people feel much safer with the Syriza party being open to discussion, watching all the possible scenarios, and then agreeing and implementing what it agrees, because you cannot find not even a single member of Syriza saying something different from what we have all agreed. I think that this is what we need. We need democracy. We need democracy inside the party, inside the parliament, and inside the European Parliament too. So no, we are not afraid of any kind of this problem. And this is also a goal for the new European left, how to overcome from all the difficulties, from all the differences coming from the past, all these fake walls we all carry, and act now.
But now I have to insist, because it wouldn't be the first time that the left is very good in undermining their own success. It sometimes happened already in history. You don't think that this could be a situation which also Syriza can face? So the different layers of the party, they stand strong against behind Tsipras and the governmental wing of the party.
If you ask me personally, what I would say is that if the left could undermine itself, it wouldn't be that much from the different political approaches, but it would be from personal, building personal careers, from bureaucracy, party bureaucracy, or from being lazy, or from being tired. We don't have the right to be tired at the moment. We know that we fight it very hard. We were exhausted the last years, but now we have to act again, to act in every possible way. You know, and it's always the question, and some people think that the well-known economists have already given the answer, who is the winner and who is the loser of such a discussion. We deeply believe that the class war, the work, are writing the history on a macro-historical level. And this is what we are trying to do. And democracy cannot be but a weapon for us, you know. It's a benefit, it's not a problem. And I think that all the tensions of Syriza are serious enough to understand the weight we are carrying.
Okay, thank you, Katerina. At that point, we have now half an hour talk show here, and now I will give the right to speak to our audience.
Before the elections, if you ask me personally, my comrades, and I think most of the people in Syriza, it wouldn't be our favorite idea to cooperate with the party of Mr. Kamenos, the independent Greeks in English. It's not that bad afterwards. What do you mean? We run all, and I'm really strict and clear on this, clear is the right word. We ran all our pre-election campaign asking for the people to give us absolute majority. We didn't speak about coalition, we spoke only about coalition of the left, of the radical left, and we asked absolute majority. We didn't get it, just for a bit. So the one way would be to go again to elections, and that would be catastrophe. The other way would be to get into the coalition with an anti-austerity party, like they said they are, putting as a complete agreement that we will realize the program of Syriza, the program of Thessaloniki, as it was called, because it was presented in Thessaloniki, every single letter and dot of it. And that is what we are doing. why did I say that's not that bad? Because the crucial things concerning rights, human rights, working rights, and migration, what we have already done are very big steps for any government in Greece. And there was no problem coming from their side. I don't know what will happen in the future. I know that they agreed to run our program. What do I mean? Migration, kids of second generation in Greece now will have a Greek identity. Camps for migrants without documents, they don't exist now. We are building shelters. And the transformation of the prisons. You know, we were accused by the mass media a lot for this, but what we did was to reform prisons, to put people who are disabled 90% outside prison to die as they should in their houses with the bracelet. I mean, into all this radical for the Greek society laws, we had no problems to pass them. We had the support. About the debt, you know, my friend, I have no idea how life would be without euro now. I think nobody does. The scenario of getting outside the Eurozone is not our favorite scenario. That won't be the profit nor for Greece, nor for European Union. With one very strong term, that austerity will be stopped now. So if there is no stop of the austerity, if things continue going as they do, we have to watch all the possible scenarios. And as we say, to go to a referendum, asking if people can accept the agreement or not. It's a long way to go there. I personally think we won't go that far. I try to be in, that's what people higher than me say, that we are optimistic. What we did in February would be a bridging agreement, you know, some kind of earning time in order to reach the agreement we would want, with no more austerity. If this is not accepted by European Union, then yes, first of all, we have to save our people, we have to save our lives. We are not crazy. But it's not a matter of a coin. It's a matter of a completely and very carefully constructed plan. It's a matter of political decision. If the question was how to create and support the new left in Austria, I would say that in Greece it was very hard. We had years of memoranda, years of austerity, years of poverty, and still the left was 3%. And the movement was us. What I mean, unfortunately, is that it needs time, and it needs probably bad circumstances to face them, to have them in front of your door, to wake up. That's what our experience showed. On the other hand, you have the advantage that there is the example of Greece. We had no other advantage. We were fed with the same propaganda. Some people said, okay, they say, I'm lazy, we have loans, it's not mine, but we have to pay them. And nobody really got into the real political analysis. And we had no means to express ourselves. So what I would propose would be taking part from the last question to address to social democrats and see, because I have met really a lot of leftist people being part of social democracy in the unions or wherever, to take position into the war. Nowadays in Europe, we have a war, that's the way we face it. So they have to take a part. Address to young people. I've been to school speaking with students, and it was really amazing how well-informed they were about the political situation, about the economic crisis, and how much will they had to do things. Adopt solidarity movements. That is always touching, you know, people. If you have a real example showing what crisis and austerity does to a real Greek house, Italian house, Spanish house, and you help people to survive, then you find yourself to seek for the solution, for the political solution. And one idea would be to establish European days, like a network, you know. Every country on that very special day, we are outside demonstrating for something. I don't really know, that's your duty.
You won't solve our problems.
Yeah, but actually it's our problem, you know.
Maybe she will.
Yeah,
Maybe you will, but we don't know.
We feel this, that SYRIZA government was a role for democracy all over Europe, and that it was also a mandate for the new left all over Europe. But we don't really know how to build it. We have some experience, but we need your soul. About social democracy, I think that there was kind of a silent agreement that we leave the capital do its work, take more capital out of capital, we get more poor, but there is some money from this capital given to social welfare state. And there are really a lot of social democrats who run these programs of welfare programs, welfare state programs, and made really a lot of money. And I think that it was much easier for a social democrat to do some social policy without fighting every day with the neoliberals. That is the answer. And exactly as you said in your statement, I'm afraid that PASOK is not an extreme example. It's not an exception. I mean, and that comes back to you, if social democracy all over Europe doesn't realize now that this will be the future, and it's proved, it's shown in so many countries, then social democracy has the responsibility of its choices, of not changing path. Why SYRIZA cannot become like PASOK? You know, this is an inner dialogue inside SYRIZA, probably you have heard of it. We are not afraid of this. And I can tell you why we are not. Because what PASOK did was to give things to people not based on real economy. To have relationships, cliental system, to give money which did not exist. We don't have money. We don't have jobs to give. What we have to give is a very hard route to change our lives. And that is what SYRIZA did before the elections and now, saying the truth to people. That in order to find a job, we have all to create new ideas about alternative ways of production and of collectives, for example. And this is not an easy way. The fear of SYRIZA becoming PASOK would be more if all the members of the party went to the government, or if all the members of the, or if the party started being fed by the government, by the state. We knew this danger, and I think we are really careful on this. What do I mean? We try to find ways to support financially the party on itself, not to be fed by the state, and at the same time to build a very strong party. Not all our members are members of the government. I'm not. And once more, what SYRIZA said, and that was a matter of building bridges of trust with the society, would be that it's not we are kicking out the people hired in the public, PASOK or New Democracy members, to put SYRIZA members. That's not what happens. We changed people only into very important political places, like ministries, for example. And what we are trying to is to make the most out of every public servant, out of every private employer. List of reforms. I will just go to the list of reforms that they are demanding on the Eurogroup of running today, these days. What they demand from the SYRIZA government is to cut more the expenses, to release the massive dismissals from the public and private state, and also to put more taxes on the goods, as I said. These are red lines for just one reason, not only because we promised it to people before the elections, not only because it's our ideological points, but mainly because if we implement these reforms, we will have more concession, more poverty into the Greek economy. The economy will be more devastated. Varoufakis at the beginning said, and he was, and it was discussed, that part of the memoranda was reasonable. For example, that you have to do a change into the public sector, you have to do it. As I mentioned before, it's not reasonable to have 20,000 people lacking from the NHS. You have to hire them now. And it's not reasonable not to use new technologies to the sectors like taxes or, I don't know, where you can have them. So this is the project that SYRIZA is really working on. This is what we accept. And to be honest with you, although it's not my ideological position, we are discussing about privatizations, for example. But about privatizations. We said we don't want to do privatizations. We are leftists, okay? But if we need to reach an agreement, we have to do some steps back and some steps forward. Our step back could be part privatizing the port, for example, but with one very certain term, that the money will go into the Greek economy and not again into a bottle without a bottom. That it won't be lost, it will be invested, and that the state will have the control, the 51%, for example, of what is under privatization.
With the red line? Is privatization not a red line?
That's the question. I think I answered it. I think I answered it by that. As you said, it's full. It was in our programs, but we were very clear. If we had to do some things, we can do the ones that will help economy. You know, we didn't get the government by revolution. Okay. Yeah, I lost it now. Oh. I would like to ask you, and thank you for this question, because you give me a lot of space to share our views. Who said that the Greek public state was the more inefficient and corrupted in Europe? I think this is not valid.
Transparency International did this study.
I think we doubt on this. First of all, we don't have more public servants, if you need my answer, and then we can discuss. First of all, we don't have more public servants than other countries. Maybe the public servants, and I just said it, were not in the proper portion, you know. We needed more teachers and doctors, less people working in the administration. But it's not that we had more. And we had corrupted people inside, but I think also Austria did. I have heard about scandals. And I think all over Europe there are. So, and it comes to the heart of your question and of your question. What we need
Bitte
is
von Unmutsäußerungen und dem Gegenteil abzusehen, sonst wird das alles noch viel länger. Ja?
is to tax the rich. So, the criminal elite, that in the list of Lagarde, for example, you know that with the SYRIZA government, ex-ministers were led to the court, to the jail, like Mr. Papakonstantinou, for example. So this is our attitude. Also, Mr. Bobolas, 2 weeks ago, and we are really happy about this, because Mr. Bobolas, I don't know if you have heard it, he is the one who has the mass media, who has the tolls, who has stolen really, really a lot of money from the Greek state, and without paying taxes. So he was imprisoned, then he gave a part of money, and he's into the court now. So this is what the attitude of SYRIZA is and should be in the future if we are not to betray our people. I cannot persuade you about our coalition partner. That is not my call. I told you it's not my choice. I think we had no other choice. And no taxation system. SYRIZA is making really a very big effort to change the taxation system right now. You may have heard that one of our flags in the pre-election period was Enfia, a very unfair law concerning the first house each Greek family has. You know that each Greek family, it's very typical to have one house coming from grandparents. So there was this tax that was posed into middle or poor class families, demanding for really, really a lot of money. Whereas the big houses and the big properties of the Greeks, of the rich Greeks, were not taxed at all. So this is what we are trying to do now. First of all, see what the objective values of the houses are, and to have more taxes on the big property. And also, my English is getting worse and worse, sorry. Also to make this list of property. That means it's not only how many houses you have, but how much money you have in the banks, or how much jewelry you have in the banks. This list is made for the first time now with the SYRIZA government, and it has to be taxed. As I said before, if the rich do not pay for the crisis, we will never exit from this. So I completely agree with your point. To the third one, I think it's a little bit strict to ask from SYRIZA to go outside NATO just like that. It's not that I don't agree. And I think it's a little bit, it's not in our hands. And it's a matter of negotiations, the military equipment, as you know. This was a main argument of Mr. Varoufakis and the negotiation team. How can a country like Germany force a country like Greece to take more loans to pay for equipment that we don't need? This is our main argument, and it's in the negotiations, as you get it. Cooperatives. That is exactly the answer we try to give on how to restart Greek economy. As I said, from cooperatives coming from farmers, till cooperatives that could be working with information technology, producing systems for the municipalities, for example, whatever. What SYRIZA is really trying to do is to have experiments on economy. We were really accused of being with the state, that we wanted more public servants and that we wanted everything to belong to the state. That is not true. What we want is new forms of economy. Solidarity economy, as we call it. And this is the difference between the left government. Whatever law comes out from the new government is given to the internet for a month or something, so that people could add some things they would like to change, or some things that the new government would like to take into notice and change the law. And then it comes to the Greek parliament to be voted. That is the way we see the future. And that is, I think, the strongest hit to the strict capitalism. Okay, this question about democracy, it really needs some hours of answering, as you understand. These are our thoughts. And as you know, SYRIZA has a very strong legacy of Euro-communistic ideas. Its founding member was Kukwe Interior, coming and being with all the values of May 68 and with the story of Pouladjas. So what we are trying to do is to preserve democracy and insert into the political scene new forms of more grassroots democracy. The start we did was with the local authorities that we earned in the previous elections. For example, local referendums. That's what we said. And one very good example is that we say, if we don't reach an agreement, we have a referendum. People decide. It's not that people give once the order and the government is controlled only 4 years after. It's not like that. And also the way we produce laws, that's also a more democratic way of voting, I think. But it really needs hours to discuss. You've got ideas, we have some. About the Aegean Sea. There are rumors and there are some projects. The problem is that we were not really left by European Union to run our projects, which would be valid and objective. On the contrary, we were forced to make these areas specific independent zones, with whatever that means. So this is another subject that, as far as I know, the new government is really posing into the matter of negotiations. Well, how to deepen the dialogue? That is the most crucial question, and that is the challenge, let's say. And it's in all our hands. You know, the answer would be simple, as much as difficult. That would be inform. But you know, here and in Germany, maybe you have a stronger point than we had. We didn't have trade unions. I don't give it as an answer, but maybe it's a a good ground to show how the austerity measures are being implemented all over Europe, and not only in Greece. But your question, I think it touches the heart of the problem. The time is now to do all these discussions. So we don't have time to lose, not even 1 minute. We have to do whatever we can, even if that is such a discussion organized in your house with 5 neighborhoods, or with your kids and their students and colleagues, or if that could be in your work or in an academic conference, for example. Much more the idea of the referendum and putting pressure into politicians. One sort of Syriza, I guess you are meaning the leftist platform, as it's called. It's not fond of Brexit. It's fond of what you described it previously, if I'm not mistaken, of saying that this European zone is not changing and we cannot survive in that. So we need to have our own production, stop paying the debts, and do something else. It is a scenario. It is a scenario. It's not the main scenario of Syriza. One thing is for sure, that if Greece exits Eurozone, then the serious discussion about austerity will come, because it's a European problem. It's not going to be vanished. It's going to ruin the whole Europe. But just about Brexit, just a final answer to this, and I'm finished, I promise. You know, when you go to negotiations, you have to be strong. And in order to be strong, you have to think of every possible scenario, just to put your red lines and reach an agreement. So that's the way we perceive it. So as a conclusion, what I would say is that it's something you have heard many times in your lives, probably, but it's what we need now. When history, the wheel of history goes back, it's the left that has to take Europe in front if we want to survive.
Yanis didn't get that. Yanis didn't get that.
No, but honestly, I would like to thank you by heart for sharing your time with me, with us, for such a crucial thing that is changing our lives. It means a lot.
I thank you very much that you were here and visited us here. I thank you that you were here.